Welcome, everyone. We've got a few items of business we need to take care of, routine business, before we hear our first cases. So first, we need to review and approve the meeting minutes and decision letters. Does any member, why don't we take about 3 minutes just to kind of go back and look over those, see if anybody has any edits, amendments, clarifications, and if appropriate, if we could take that in one motion, unless we got some detailed things we need to repair. So. I'll just add that sometimes the minutes look like they're kind of bare bones, or the decision letters look like they're kind of very concise, but we've learned from past experience that when a party wants to know the details, they'll go to the recordings. So we've actually seen verbatim quotes from recorded hearings and appeals court decisions. So it is pretty thoroughly covered. So.
Logan, I do have one question. The number 2 Carl Place, let me know when you get there. It says in the last paragraph above, now therefore, that I presented a motion to conditionally approve as presented.
Yeah, the condition was we have standard conditions typically, and then you had the educational signage.
Okay. Okay.
There was some reference to it being like a pocket park there.
Correct.
It was just a little house.
Yeah. Okay, that's right. Okay, thanks. Okay.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? Second. Have a second. Is this for the minutes and decision letters, Mr. Lewis? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Is that what you understood? You're seconding? Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, minutes and decision letters are approved. Okay, so we'll invite our first case to come forward. That would be the B&A Concourse Ramp A expansion, 1 Terminal Drive. And good morning.
I'm a project manager.
Okay, wait, if you don't mind, just wait. We're going to read you your legal rights of appeal. And then the staff will introduce the case so that everybody understands what you're asking for. Then we'll give you 10 minutes to give us kind of an overview of why you're here. And then we'll open up a public hearing. We'll see if anybody has any concerns for or against. Then we'll close the public hearing. Then we'll come back to a debate, and we'll start asking you questions. Okay, is that all right?
For walking me through it.
No problem. All right, Mr. Bowman.
All right. Opening statement to the applicant. If you are not satisfied with a decision made by the Stormwater Management Committee, you may appeal the decision by filing for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the committee's decision. You're advised to seek the independent advice of legal counsel to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been satisfied. Case number 1 on the agenda is case 2021-00006, B&A Ramp A Concourse at 1 Terminal Drive. APN is 107-0000500. Inspector is Sean Herman. Council District 13, Russ Bradford. Applicant's request, stream and stream buffer disturbance. Appellant is Metropolitan Nashville Airport Authority, represented by Tracy Holton, MNAA. Comments, Stormwater staff, no comment provided. Codes, no comment provided. Planning, no comment provided. And Greenway said no comment provided.
All right, so at this time, we'll start the clock, and when you get close to 10 minutes, I'll kind of give you the 1 minute signal. And if you'll, yeah, and do you have anybody else here with you today, or you the only person? Okay. All right, thank you. So please proceed. And your button.
Thank you for reminding me. Good morning. My name is Caitlin Dillon. I'm a project manager with the engineering department at the Airport Authority. We were here once before in 2021 for the same project and were granted a variance for the stream buffer disturbance with the conditions that we purchase credits from stream mitigation banks from two places. And I'm not sure, I know Logan had provided some of this information for you previously, but I'll be brief. Our decision letter said we would purchase credits, roughly 60% from the Cumberland River Compact's lower service area and 40% from Sutter's Ridge, which is a mitigation bank in Williamson County. The project started shortly after we met with you all. We've been working, we're almost done, and we've been waiting for those credits to become available. So I should back up just a sec. We also had to purchase credits to get our state and core permits for the job. So we went ahead and did that. Using a TDEX calculator, you can purchase credits that are not from a project or not from a mitigation bank in your watershed if you apply a multiplier. So we went ahead and did that, purchased as many credits were available from the Cumberland River Compact at that time. All of those were in the next watershed up. I'm referring to the graphic that's on the screen here. So the airport is located in two service areas. Our project is in the lower, which is like a red color. The credits that we purchased were in the middle, which is blue. We also purchased credits in the green, which is the upper. As you move farther away from your project site, the multiplier goes up. So that was on full compliance to get our state and core permits. We remain on the wait list with the Cumberland River Compact to purchase any credits that are available. Today, still, there are none. There are no mitigation projects available in our watershed from any mitigation banks. And the project is wrapping up. So we're coming back to you to ask that you take a look at the mitigation that we've already performed and consider that as a revision to the statement in the decision letter that you had given. So instead of purchasing the credits from the lower Cumberland River watershed, we had purchased them from the middle and upper. And that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, appreciate it. All right, at this time, we'll open up the public hearing to see if there's anyone here that would like to speak in favor or in opposition to the current variance proposal. Is there anyone here who'd like to do that? All right, seeing none, do we have any emails, voicemails, letters, high-flying balloons?
There is a letter from the Cumberland River Compact. It's printed out.
Okay.
Just kind of saying they don't have any credits, basically.
See, you said staff did not have any comments on this.
We didn't have any comments on this.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I might add that the airport did get with us on what they needed to do in this regard when after a certain amount of time, they were unable to purchase these credits. We got with Metro Legal, and they they said it would have to come back before you because of the specifics within the variance that was granted. So
Okay,
that's
right,
how we
'cause it
ended up.
was. I remember it being pretty precise. Okay, so I'll close the public hearing. What comments, questions do the members of the committee have?
Is it the same amount of credits or just in a different area?
Because of the multiplier, we had to purchase a lot more credits.
But like the baseline is essentially the
Yes,
same.
yes.
So
Yes, the way this calculator works, you kind of punch in the length of the stream that you've disturbed and the health of it. And it kind of magic box number gives you what you owe back.
right.
So yeah, that was our base number, and then the multiplier increased that.
I kind of see this as a technicality. They did what they needed to do, just couldn't do it where they needed, we told them to do it originally.
Okay, just for clarification, you met the requirements, just not in the number of credits needed, just not in the locations.
Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Is there any way I could tease the director of the Cumberland River Compact just to address why there's not any current mitigation credits and why we don't expect any in the near future? Yeah, if you come up to the mic up here and just state your name and turn the mic on before you start speaking so we get you on the official recording.
Good morning, Mikhail Houghton, Cumberland River Compact. I'm the executive director, and we run an in-lieu fee compensatory mitigation program. So we have sold mitigation credits as required by TDEC and the Corps of Engineers to BNA. When they came for their Metro variant, stormwater variants, you all asked that the mitigation credits be in Davidson County. So that obviously that's been difficult for them because there are very few mitigation credits available in Davidson County because mitigation projects, the feasibility of mitigation projects is determined largely by the availability of land. So we, prior to that, and then really accelerated after that conversation, our work with Metro to try to do mitigation on Metro Parks property. So we've done feasibility studies. We've had conversations with Metro Legal and with Metro Parks as well, including Cindy, to try to get mitigation on Metro Parks property. The easements of mitigation projects are pretty strict, and so we haven't reached an agreement about that's acceptable to both Metro Parks and the Corps of Engineers that once we install this mitigation, that it won't be disturbed, because Metro Parks, their calling is to run parks for the citizens. So they may need to make a crossing across a stream that we restore in Warner Parks, and the Corps won't allow that. So we're still trying to work through these negotiations. But it's very difficult for us to find mitigation projects in Davidson County is the baseline. We, before us, TSMP had Pavilion Branch, that was in Davidson County. There's a Neely's Bend project in the bank in Davidson County, but we've got one in Williamson County. I think one's in Stewart. Sumner County, and then in the Caney Fork, right next to Fall Creek Falls, is our other county. So the parcels are bigger, the land is cheaper outside of Davidson County.
Thank you. Okay, so it sounds like you all just need this resolved because you've got unresolved regulatory conditions, and it is the Corps or the state pressuring you to get this done in a particular period of time, or just more of an administrative just kind of closure?
This is more just Metro. The Corps and the state required us to have all of our mitigation in place before we began, so we had to do that, 2 years ago. But
So theoretically, if we gave you more time to do it, to find it in Davidson County, would that be a burden, or would that be?
that would be a burden because our grading permit would remain open on the job, and the construction is near completion.
Okay. All right. So just for clarification for the committee, we have turned down stream encapsulation proposals in the past of this scale that were private proposals from the perspective that that type of development is more frequent, more likely to occur. Public works projects of this nature are pretty rare, pretty concentrated to existing sites for expansions of airports and that kind of thing. So we felt like with mitigation that we could mitigate the hardship by compensating for the impact. We had originally asked for, knowing that we couldn't find all the credits in Davidson County, we'd originally asked for as big a percentage in Davidson County as we could get so we could recoup that loss. We knew that a big percentage would probably go out of the county. Sometimes situations like this, once they're resolved, it might even kind of catalyze some urgency for people out in the community to step forward and try to make these mitigation banks more real in the future. So if we proceed with the proposal, it won't be ideal, but it might actually catalyze a sense of urgency out there that Davidson County needs to get something going.
Yeah, I really appreciate Ms. Harrison and Greenways being here and the collaboration with Cumberland River Compact to develop alternative solutions with parks properties. I think there's a lot of opportunity there to transfer some of these credits into Metro properties and those streams. Hopefully we can get through the bureaucracy to get that done. But going back to this topic and that built on your point, I'm pulling the original submittal up. So do you have control of that? Can we go to page? I need a clarification here. On page 1 of the Garver document, the alternatives selection criteria, section 1.1.2. It's the one in our packet. It's the it has the giant colored airport drawing in it. Is there a name for that document?
That's our proposed airport layout plan. The document, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So, just past the giant colored airfield plan sheet.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So in this section, you discuss alternatives. And one of the alternatives I'm reading at the bottom, section 1.1.2, stream permitting and or mitigation timeframes. In this, it says, and it's also continues to the next page, the permitting time frame, it's the second bullet, the permitting time frame to mitigate for stream impacts within the same watershed would not meet the project's schedule, thereby increasing the likelihood of encountering available mitigation credit shortages. So now that the project is done, is there opportunity to do mitigation on the airport's property elsewhere?
No, there's no opportunities similar to what CRC was mentioning, when you do a mitigation project, you have to promise that you would never disturb that stream buffer again. And the airport's mission is to serve, air travel. So it's difficult for us legally to say that we could preserve that indefinitely.
I didn't know that if you do mitigation, that's a in perpetuity non-disturbance. Okay, it's a good learning moment. Okay, so there's no opportunity to come
Like
back to
a
that.
perpetual easement. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I hesitate to make a point of perspective that the applicant knows and can volunteer themselves, but one of the things that we feel like have constrained us quite a bit is creating bird habitat on the airport campus and the possibility of bird strikes with planes. That was another reason why we have been more inclined to mitigate for these kind of things off-site.
Yeah, thank you. We've looked, in the immediate air operations area, any bird attractants are big no, for obvious reasons. But we've also considered, worked with staff to try to identify areas nearby. But all of the land in the airport falls under federal jurisdiction that, it's for the mission of air travel. So, yeah.
Okay, did staff have any other recommendations for mitigation, Rebecca?
This one is a bit complicated because typically projects apply for mitigation through TDEC and the Corps and do the credits, and we require separate mitigation. So as part of this variance, they asked not to do that separate mitigation we were requesting. So we did ask for them to do more, and part of their variance request was not to have to do mitigation for us. And that was granted. So this case is very unusual across the board.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Answers my questions.
So the bottom line is if we approve the applicant's request, Davidson County is going to have a net loss of buffer without any mitigation.
On the other hand, it's staying within the state. They contribute a lot more funding because it was in another county, and the state will be better. It's just a loss for Davidson County. So I feel like they put forth a good faith effort and met the criteria. It's just in the wrong location. Not to their choice, but.
And I'll have to also note that I think Ms. Houghton implicitly warned us that this might be a possibility in her last appearance. So the only thing that made this acceptable to me was that it's a pretty rare occurrence and we normally don't approve it. So it's net losses are not ideal or welcomed by any applicant, but like I said, we need this type of situation sometimes creates enough urgency for people to begin to figure out solutions as we begin to lose things in the county.
And that's the lesson learned from this case. So this is the start of a new beginning, is how I'm taking this case.
That's how we started the historic preservation movement. We lost a famous train station in New York City that was quite architecturally significant, and it's how the Clean Water Act started, by a river catching on fire 50 times over 15 years, and finally making all the nation's newspapers in 1969. So pain has its use. It's just not welcome. So. All right, do we have a motion?
So, our job is to look at hardships, and the variances that come before us are based on hardships. And this truly seems to be a case of hardship where they've tried everything possible within the bounds that they have to make, remedy the situation. And it's just one of those situations that's unique and not possible. So I think they've done what they could, given the constraints that they're faced with. I'll make a motion to accept the application and realize that, they have met the requirements, just not in the location that we would have liked.
All right, we have a second. Have motion and second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carries. Okay, we are ready for our second case. Is that Gould? Okay, so 1400 Gould Boulevard, if you'll come forward. Okay, that's right. Okay, so the reason we don't have an applicant here today is that we approved a deferral for a preliminary proposal in the last meeting. And so at this point, the applicant essentially is implicitly, since they're not present, asking for another deferral. So since our deferrals are limited to 30 days, if the committee feels like it's appropriate to defer another 30 days, we'll probably need a motion to that effect.
Motion to defer?
Second.
Have motion to defer in a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. All right. 7433 Sawyer Brown Road. Are they here yet? Okay, so let's move on to the next one. 135 Kingston Street. All right. So if you'll come forward, did you hear your rights read earlier, your rights of appeal?
Yes, sir.
All right, and you know the routine. You've been here a few times, so we'll introduce the case and we'll get started.
Case number 3 on the agenda is case 2023-00004, 135 Kingston Street. At 135 Kingston Street, APN is 0713011500. Inspector is Catherine O'Hara. Council District 5, Sean Parker. Applicant's request, disturbance of the Zone 1 and Zone 2 floodway buffer, continuous mowing and maintenance of portions of the floodway buffer, modified buffer signage is necessary. Appellant is Raymond and Mary Uford, represented by Michael Garrigan, Dallin Associates. Comments, Stormwater staff, no comment provided. Codes, no comment provided. Planning had no comment provided. Greenways request that property owner work with Greenways and Open Space Division staff to dedicate a conservation greenway easement over the floodway of Pages Branch, plus 25 feet on both sides of the floodway on this parcel.
Okay, so if you would just introduce yourself and give you 10 minutes. When you get close to the end of that 10 minutes, I'll give you a 1 minute signal, and then we'll open up the public hearing.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michael Garrigan. I'm with Dallin Associates, 516 Heather Place. It's a pretty unique piece of property. It originally had a fairly large duplex on it. I checked the May 210 maps. It did get moderate damage, which is, I guess, the middle class there. The new house we're proposing would be 4 feet higher than the old duplex. And I zoomed out on the 2010 maps to find the closest dwellings that did not receive damage there to the north off of Donald. And it appeared that their crawl space in the back of their yards were right at 4 feet above base flood, which is where we're proposing to be. So from a flood safety standpoint, I'm very comfortable with the elevation proposed. The existing duplex caught on fire a few years ago. And when the owner went to codes for his renovation permits, they were declined, and the house was, or the dwelling, the two-family dwelling was condemned and required to be demolished. So, and you can see from the maps, the prior two-family dwelling was a matter of maybe 2 feet from the floodway line, 80%, maybe 85% of it in the Zone 1 buffer. So when my client came to me about this, it was definitely a head scratcher. In a perfect world, you just be able to rebuild what was there before. Wasn't demolished by choice or desire, but it is what it is. So, I made it very clear to him the past history of this committee and structures in the Zone 1 buffer. And basically we looked at that as a non-starter. So if you could span or click to the proposed, that's essentially the reasoning for the catty corner there, shoehorned in, if you want to call it, structure. What's proposed is essentially, it's in today's world a very small house, just a little cottage home, 12 to 1,300 square feet. Zero of it is in the Zone 1 buffer. Obviously, it is totally in the Zone 2 buffer because there's a very, very small triangle left of land. It's a wide right-of-way there on Kingston Street. You can probably, 20 feet of turf between the pavement and the right-of-way line. My client has been to the BZA for a setback variance along the street as well as the side. So you can see there's been quite a bit of effort to try to get something back here for the owner of the property. Insurance obviously covers the structure, but they do not cover the land. So that's where we're at. What was there a couple of years ago was a much larger structure, almost totally in the Zone 1 buffer. No mitigation measures, no BMPs. What's proposed is a much smaller single-family structure, completely outside of the Zone 1, and substantial BMPs to address it, as well as landscape mitigation. And I would also point out the continued mowing and maintenance requested is just half of the Zone 1. It's a small area. Less than half of the Zone 1 hatched on the proposed plan. It's 25 feet just in that area, just enough so that there's not, waist-high grass growing right adjacent to the side of the house to have a little bit of lawn space. So that's about it. As far as working with Greenways, there's that works out very well with the mowing and maintenance, because that 25 feet's exactly right where the maintenance would stop, and so we're perfectly fine with that. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Michael. All right, so at this time, we'll open the public hearing to see if anyone would like to speak in favor or against the current proposal. If you'll come up to the mic, introduce yourself, give us your address in Davidson County, and we'll give you 2 minutes.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairperson, members of the committee, thank you for your time. My name's Elliot Hallam. I'm representing the seller. I'm a realtor with Reliant Realty. Just wanted to say that the seller has a hardship with this property, and we're in favor of the variance request, and that the property in its current state, it's attracting illegal dumping and unhoused population and stuff. So would really like to see some resolution in this. And we feel like Dale and Associates has done a fantastic job finding a solution to get this property back in a productive state and, back in the tax base and stuff like that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, do we have any letters, emails, barges with banners floating in the river?
Nothing on this case. There is some more detailed information that's printed out about kind of what's being asked for in each zone. In my email, I said the 1 and 2 are here for the zone of the floodway buffer. I think I actually meant to reverse those. So the first one is that says rooftop, sidewalk, rain garden, pavers. That's actually supposed to be zone 2, and the rain garden and mowing are in zone 1. Just switch those two. It's not confusing.
All right, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for committee discussion. Michael, you're right. We typically categorically haven't approved applications in the past for new developments in Zone 2 that took up all of the Zone 2. This one's a little different because there was a dwelling in the Zone 1 that it's replacing. So it's a bit of a gray area between ones that are redeveloped in place where they try to minimize their footprint and move out. Is this a property that the owner is going to own and live in? Or is this a development for sale?
It would be a for sale dwelling.
Okay.
And I would point out that there was about 1,500 square feet of rooftop in the Zone 1, and we're proposing about a third of that in the Zone 2.
Okay. And can we see an aerial satellite image to see kind of what's on either side of the Zone 2 of this house, of this dwelling? Can you zoom out a little bit? Yeah. Okay. All right. Can you zoom in a little more just to kind of get maybe 2 lots on either side? There's nothing there. Yeah. Okay. All right. That's what I thought. Okay.
So I have a quick question. Do we know the current value of the property? I'm just curious.
I'm not aware.
No. We just talked about no opportunities for stream mitigation and those things in this area. This property would be an ideal candidate, I feel like, for purchase by Metro or someone to leave as green space. But it may be cost prohibitive.
I have to add that the point about the hardship is well taken. We're compelled by appeals court definitions of hardship, and hardship is having to stop at a red light every 100 yards coming to downtown from my house. But according to the state appeals court, the kind of hardship we're talking about here, it has to be a hydrogeomorphic anomaly that the ordinance could not have envisioned. So this would have to be like a plateau that would normally be out west or something, assuming that would even be in a buffer. But it has to be something just not common to the normal geologic landscape in Davidson County and hydrologic landscape. So it's technically not a hardship. So,
Michael, can you confirm if the BZA variance was granted for the setbacks?
It's my understanding that it was.
Okay.
Do you know anything about the historical floodway elevation? Did it change with the maps in the last 10 years?
I don't believe it did.
I think this area was relatively newly mapped into the floodplain, maybe in 2017.
Was it?
I think
It's a dry. There's pictures of Page's Branch through there. It's obviously named, but it's a dry rock bottom channel.
But it is a stream for sure. Or you haven't had it assessed at all?
That's a great question. It's named.
That doesn't always mean that it's not.
Yeah, that's true.
this looks like parts of West Fork of Dry Creek. That's got a pretty substantial watershed. I mean, a lot of these streams go dry in the summer because of cars. So.
I was going to answer the question about the value of the property. Tax assessor has it listed as $50,400 just for the land because there's no house there currently. Looks like the house was assessed for $164,500 before it was torn down.
Okay.
I mean, Rebecca not being to the site, think it's a stream? I mean, what's the rule of thumb? If it's dry in March, then
I don't get a red light.
What's the watershed size, Rebecca?
Hold on.
That's one indicator.
It's a pretty wide floodway.
I was thinking upper drainage area.
The primary indicator is usually if it's dry up until April 15th tax day, then it would be considered a wet weather conveyance in a normal hydrologic year. It is, the drain model, we don't have it specifically, but it is 100 or greater acres drainage.
But not a square mile, is that correct?
No, it's not 640 acres yet.
And I'm assuming those pictures were taken the month before your application. So 60 days ago.
Thereabouts.
In March.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, it seems in this case, since it was predicated on the substantial damage criteria, I wonder if Mr. Bowman, who deals with that a lot, might cover that general process and how that works. I guess we normally think in terms of that for us as flooding, but it can relate to any damage. So it's a cumulative over time. I believe is it 10 years, Logan, that time frame. So all of those sorts of things have to go into that consideration, which is what seemingly caught this project when it tried to come back in and be permitted.
Yeah, that's what triggered the buffer was the damage to the house.
Yeah, I think we all understood that. Yeah, we had a case like this, similar to this last meeting, went through, I think maybe even 3 meetings, but part of what predicated our decision to support it was Metro had sent a signal that the property was developable by advertising a vacant lot that they had taken for flooding and then resold. They initially advertised it, I think, at a $90,000 plus value. The variance applicant, then submitted a low bid just to see what would happen, was the only bidder, got it for $10,000. And so Metro and he created this perception that there was some public interest in having that property redeveloped. So normally we wouldn't have approved that, but we did because there was some confusion about the investment-backed expectations, which is a pretty fundamental Supreme Court decision, federal court decision. And the applicant was also willing to significantly minimize the footprint of the house in the Zone 2, put in pervious paving, put in all, and stay out of the Zone 1 completely, not mow it, not get into it, and leave part of the Zone 2 undeveloped. I have a harder time supporting this one because if we do, somebody's going to come right back in here with a similar kind of situation where we've clearly got a buffer, healthy on both sides, wanting to put a house in the middle of a healthy buffer just based on technicalities. And I don't feel comfortable supporting that based upon the trigger that implies going forward.
I would understand
but I'm just one vote. So.
I would ask if Metro required that the house be demolished, is it not a comparable situation?
Not if it didn't accompany some additional expectation that it could be developed. For example, publishing a value of a property for development, the way Metro did in that previous case. That was the only reason I voted. Actually, I think I voted against it last time out of principle. But the majority of the board voted for it because of that fundamental reality. And in this case, ideally, we're going to lose some more buffer, just like my peer next to me said. And that's what makes it difficult for me. And this is for development. This is not like someone's trying to get their house back. This is just another opportunity to redevelop a site that should have been buffered to start with.
I can see that, but I'd also point out that it's not a natural buffer. It's there's construction debris from the demolition still in the Zone 1. There's no trees in the Zone 1. Nashville that needs housing, specifically affordable housing, lost 2 units, and we're proposing to bring back 1 and create a buffer where, physically the land doesn't have a house on it, but the land's not providing any environmental, anything environmentally to Page's Branch through there. I might say that it might have the opposite effect in the fact that we could be the first one to start to begin the buffer, a real buffer, and not just, one that's on paper.
Yeah, I guess my only concern about that, we have a lot of applicants who come in who state the current condition of the buffer as being cleared of trees or full of trash. A 57 Chevy in a junkyard full of rust doesn't look like a 57 Chevy, but they get restored all the time.
Mm-hmm. I understand that, but I'm not saying that's not the only point. The existing house, the condemnation of the house, the removal of everything from the Zone 1, the pervious pavement, bioretention, and modified French drain being proposed for the house, the tree mitigation, the dedication of the easement to greenways. It's a multifaceted proposal, I guess, would set it apart from just saying, hey, it's a junk buffer, so let us build in half of it so we can give you the other half.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I like Janie's point a lot about how we just talked about there not being, a ton of opportunity in Davidson County. So wondering if, there's some sort of compromise here where you could enhance the existing buffer, right? If there's trash and stuff in it, is there a potential to clean it out and plant native species and enhance that buffer to kind of get it back to a more natural state if it's been, dumped in or kind of destroyed over the years?
100% on, within our property.
I almost feel like it's being deemed a stream when, well, obviously there's floodway, but due to drainage area, I'd be curious to know how it's scored if you did score it. I don't know if that would weigh into everybody's decision, because all the pictures show it dry. I know that's just one day, but is it a buffer to treat the water flowing into Page's Branch, or is it a buffer to protect people from putting something too close to what could flood?
So Jay, you're saying that if it comes back not a stream, there's potentially not the water quality piece to the buffer, and it doesn't have the same impact?
Or if it comes back just borderline, if there's no, crustacean, no aquatic life in it, I think that it could be benefit by cleaning it up a lot. Mm-hmm. The thing that I'm a little sympathetic to is just the fire, because if the fire hadn't happened, there'd be a house there. Mm-hmm. And so it's, if the tornado blew it over, there'd be a house back in that original footprint. But tornado and fires are, I guess, treated differently. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if y'all be willing to get it scored.
I think so.
I hate to push you out, but I think that could help, unless other people are swinging different directions.
Yeah, and these streams are dry because the watersheds are being developed, and they're dry because the buffers are being squeezed and tightened and made less spongy and dense. But ephemeral streams, and could come back as a ephemeral stream with a 100-acre watershed. It could, but ephemeral streams have been shown to remove more nitrogen and more nutrients than perennial and intermittent streams. So they do have an enormous water quality benefit when they have functional buffers. And water quality is the chief purpose of these buffers. I've also been involved in restoring streams that are completely dry for most of the year, and when we put the buffer back, Now they're wet 50% of the year. So the buffers hold water during wet seasons and then release that water into the stream, sometimes in tiny, tiny sites. It's really where the stream is completely devoid of riparian habitat upstream. We've seen streams come alive in very short distances when the buffer has been enhanced and improved. I do sympathize with the applicant. This is that gray area between what we normally don't approve and what we could approve with improvements to the buffer. If it were developed on either side, I would support it. But since it's not, I just don't feel good about the net loss of the buffer. But that's just me. I'm just one vote. Okay.
I'm wondering if there's potential to do, maybe consider deferring, get a stream determination, and also, think if you could provide more mitigative benefits, getting to what Kate's talking about, thinking about what Jay has said of if it was a tornado versus fire, and, also the comment about substantial damage. If it was not a complete destruction, the property owner was rebuilding their own residence on the footprint that existed, I think it'd be a different situation and conversation here. I'm not suggesting you go back and say we're going to rebuild on that footprint by any means, but I do appreciate that you're trying to stay out of the Zone 1 buffer, limit the mowing. You've got pavers. I also think about, that sidewalk, like what can you do there to reduce the impervious area? I know it's a small building. I appreciate the consideration of affordable housing in Davidson County and the need for that. But I think there's too many questions right now on this one, and there's not quite, as the chairperson was saying, not quite enough to just really feel good about saying yes to this. So I think a defer, if you're interested in that, might be a good option. Bring us back something where we can feel better about considering the mitigation, but also know more about the stream and the real situation that we're dealing with.
And strangely enough, that it looks like the 50-foot, which would be the governing buffer if it is ephemeral, the Zone 2 will go away, and so we won't have to come back.
That's right. That's right. And, anything you can do to make the Zone 1 better might help your case as well. I mean, not mowing it and adding native understory and overstory. Make it spongy again.
Understood.
And you might be able to have conversations with Metro or the Compact or others about possible purchase of the property so it doesn't need to be developed.
I just got a hat idea, Michael. Make it Davidson County spongy again. Anyway. All right, sorry. Okay, so do you want a deferral?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion to defer?
I'll make a motion to defer.
All right, we have a motion to defer. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, everyone say who's for it, say aye. Everyone who's against it, say no. Anybody want to abstain, be neutral, like the Swiss? All right. Okay, we'll see you in 30 days. Okay. Okay. I'm too old to be bored, so. All right, so let's see if we have Sawyer Brown here yet. Okay, all right. Why don't y'all come on up? So were both of you here to hear your legal rights of appeal read earlier? Would you like to have that read again?
Len was here earlier.
Okay, and I think you heard it last time. Okay, good. So we're going to go through the same routine, and then we'll give you 10 minutes if you'll introduce each other, and then we'll start the clock, and then we'll have a public hearing and try to review your proposal. All right, Mr. Bowman.
Good morning. So my name is Marlon Bonilla. I'm here from Archetypo Studio. We're representing Sawyer Brown Road. We were here last month and we were deferred according to 3 observations that we had. Between those observations, it was requested to show the water flow management from the building and also to increase the amount of mitigation and the landscape plans to coordinate with the grading plan. I also have with me here Mr. Rocky LeBlanc. He is with the civil engineering company, so he can address any questions or comments in the civil part. I was just ask if or request. Mr. Rocky LeBlanc can hardly listen. He can hardly hear. So if you could please try to raise your voice whenever you make any comment, we would greatly appreciate it.
I have tinnitus and it's screaming like crazy today, so sorry about that.
So if you don't mind, if you would pause a second and just let Mr. Bowman read the case into the record. So
Yes, sir. I'm sorry.
that's okay. No problem.
Case number 4 on the agenda, case 2023-00001, 7433 Sawyer Brown Road at 7433 Sawyer Brown Road. APN is 114-000-24400. Inspector is Kimberly Hayes, Council District 22, Gloria Hauser. Disturbance, the applicant's request, 1, disturbance of the Zone 2 floodway buffer to build a driveway, continuous mowing and maintenance of portions of the floodway buffer. Appellant is Big V Rentals LLC, represented by Marlon Bonilla, Archetypo Studio. Comments, Stormwater staff. Previous comment. Applicant is proposing a driveway related to construction of a garage. Applicant is also requesting to mow and maintain portions of the Zone 1 buffer and floodway. Updated comment. Applicant is proposing a driveway related to construction of a garage. Applicant is also requesting to mow and maintain portions of the Zone 1 buffer and floodway. Staff requests that a portion of the buffer is not mowed or maintained. Codes, no comment provided. Planning, no comment provided. Greenway said no comment provided.
All right. So we'll give you 10 minutes and then we'll get started with public hearing and debate.
Okay. Again, I'm so sorry. I skipped it. And well, again, we were deferred last month and we had 3 observations. We have basically gone through the 3 observations and we try to suffice. We understand that probably the committee wants to see a little bit more in Zone 1, but we also have to go with what the owner wants and probably, it's just kind of in between. So we're trying to suffice both parts right now. And we have increased the mitigation as we had proposed, and also we have shown, we have added preliminary plans of the building they're trying to propose in the project in order for Mr. Rocky to make the design of the water flow and how it's going to be proposed. What we're trying to get approved here is just a portion of the driveway to access this new proposed building. It's going alongside a gravel driveway that has been existing in the property since 2007, according to what we could investigate. And this is just a residential project. And I guess that would be it.
Is that it? That's everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we'll open up the public hearing at this time. Is there anyone here who'd like to speak in favor or against the current variance proposal? All right, seeing none. We have any communications, creative or traditional?
Nothing on this case.
All right, nothing on this case. All right, so we'll close the public hearing. So it's pretty rare for us to grant mowing of the Zone 1. It's very rare. I think the main concerns our committee had were about the design of flow around the building and some of the mitigation that you're proposing. So the members of the committee who had concerns about that last time, do you feel like those concerns have been alleviated?
No, my big concern is you got three 12-foot wide doors and you've got 105 feet of concrete you're pouring out there. I mean, it's, and I don't know, it just seems it's excessive. I understand you got to back some vehicles in there, but I mean, we would be granting significantly more concrete than ever needed. If you go to the elevations, I mean, you got 20 feet between a door and a overhead door, and we're just wiping it out with concrete. You got a 60-foot deep building. I'm still worried about the drainage getting around, but that's not what we're here for. That's up for the department to review and for y'all to figure out if it's done right or not. But I don't know why you couldn't build a bigger wall and have the driveway get across the buffer and enter doors into the side of the building to where you're not wiping out the buffer. There are just other options. I feel like this is nothing changed except for the pipe under the driveway being noted to be removed.
Yeah, and to that point, can we not have a pervious pavement in that area that in lieu of concrete?
Well, I think we've talked about pervious pavement before and the maintenance, especially in the residential, may not maintain that properly, but pavers or something like that might be a better option. The fact that they're going to be driving over this with, various vehicles, I'm not sure about, weight requirements and supporting that, especially on that slope. So that's another consideration. But I kind of agree with Jay. I don't see a lot of substantial changes in this plan compared to what was presented before.
We're giving you perspectives that help you come back with a different proposal. We're not really, it's not legally prudent for us to act as consultants, but I'll state an obvious fact that comes up a lot here, and that is that precast pavers will absorb runoff as opposed to limited strength porous concrete, because you are proposing to put some pretty heavy vehicles. I think some of the design options that Mr. Fulmer gave you, should be considered to avoid disturbance entirely. But if you're going to have a pad that big, impervious concrete is just not acceptable in that kind of buffer zone. So you could turn your doors to a different side. You could put precast porous pavers with a 18-inch subgrade that would absorb all that runoff. You can go right outside this building and see it in the parking lot right next to this building. It'll infiltrate water pretty fast, and a lot better than mowed grass, frankly. So you're probably not going to get at least my support for your variance if you're mowing the Zone 1 buffer. So what we're inclined to do is what we typically do when you're getting this kind of pushback is say, do you want to defer? Because if we make a decision saying we're not going to approve your variance, it's pretty much done at that point. So unless you reapply with a totally different variance proposal, I'm not quite sure how that works. You do have that option, but it would be less paperwork if you deferred.
Yeah, we will. I guess that's what we're going to have to choose at this point. When we had the first meeting, we understood it was more about adjusting and having something a little bit with more information than an entirely design matter thing. especially because, I mean, it's kind of hard. The building is out of the buffer, and it's just a portion of a driveway where we're discussing here, and but I understand it's integral.
Yeah, and part of what you're challenged by is that the previous owner didn't get approval for the driveway.
Right.
So you've already got a lot of extra imperviousness that you've inherited. And frankly, other applicants who are not homeowners, who are kind of casually aware of stormwater regulations, don't necessarily have the means or the time to employ a professional engineer that would normally assist you in being aware of what would make this more palatable in terms of a variance proposal.
Right.
And so I realize you're at a disadvantage because this is not your normal life. And so that's why we're inclined to give you another deferral, which we're not normally inclined to do. We're normally just inclined to make a decision, put the burden on the applicant, not put the burden on staff and us. But we're willing to accept a little extra burden because this is not your day job. So.
Right. And we appreciate it. Okay. We will try again.
Okay. All right. So do you want a deferral?
Yes, sir.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Motion to defer.
All right, we have a motion to defer. Have a second. Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Do you have enough clarity about what you need to come back with? Okay. All right. Okay, so that's our 4 cases. Do we have any other business? Mr. Bowman?
Yes, the
Unpublished business. This is called surprise business.
Yeah,
I don't remember this in Robert's Rules of Order. Surprise business.
there's a draft ordinance that's printed out to change the name from Stormwater Management Committee to Stormwater Management Commission. I know that was your request.
And I want to let you know this is not about ego. I don't want to be called a commissioner because this is going to be my last year. I'm not going to do this when my term is up. Matter of fact, I wrote myself out of the ordinance when I was asked to submit a proposal for those 3 at-large positions. So all 3 categories exclude all my skills, so, all my formal skills, the way they're written in the ordinance. So I just felt like, and I was talking to one of the Metro lawyers about this, but, the evolution of various government functions is that you start off as committees, you evolve to boards and commissions as your authority becomes more legally relevant and more culturally relevant to your community and more technically relevant to your community. And I got this idea from you all. I've commonly heard you refer to each other as commissioners occasionally. I thought, well, maybe they want to be called commissioner. So, sure beats being the commissioner of TDAC, right? So you got all that extra responsibility. But so this is a day job once a month. And so I just felt like commission would raise the profile of what you all as very gifted practitioners do every day. And I just thought it'd be a nice way to take this function to an appropriate level. So does anybody have any, I'm assuming, do we need to vote on this? Do we need okay, we don't have to have a policy position on this, but it's more of an FYI.
Right. It was asked for me to draft sort of what it would look like, which is really just a change of one name to the other, right? Which is why you see the same sentence over and over again. So if you're okay with moving forward, if that's something, I mean, it doesn't hurt to take a vote if that's what, it would probably be cleaner. Go ahead, take it. It's fine.
Yeah, it might be nice if the council knew how you all felt about it. So
We have a conditional, it's now that we've elevated from committeemen and women to commissioners. That's a raise. I think.
Yeah.
So they're like a free parking spot, or
I think we can.
or
How about minus $1 per hour?
I suggest you contact a lawyer. I'm not sure about that.
breakfasts maybe.
I would just like to get in the building before 8 o'clock before I get off this board. That would be my preference. But I always have to stand outside. Maybe they've changed that since the pandemic. Yeah, exactly. You have the same problem. Yeah.
Somebody will put some conditions in the motion then.
Make a motion to express support, and then we'll vote on it.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So raise your hands if you support.
All right, all those in favor? All those in favor say aye, raise with a hand raise, so we make this clear. All opposed? Any abstentions? Okay.
Aye.
So council knows your preference. We all have egos. All right.
Thank you for doing this.
Oh, no problem. Well, it was just a proposal to a Metro Council representative, and evidently it bounced back to our legal counsel to put together. So I'm sorry for giving you more work. My real apology is to Logan, who leaned over and whispered to me during the Metro Council meeting discussion where this came up. He says, I'm going to have to change every form that we have. So everybody give Logan a hug, which is of the same value of how much you're being paid today. So, all right. Any other business?
No.
All right. Have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion adjourned. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's non-debatable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.